This word power, I wondered if we could go into the word power as a part of our self-knowledge. And now, of course, the spiritual life is about gaining, or not gaining, but being powerful. And I think, first of all, that we should understand what power is not. First of all, there is no power in the world. The world calls force power. And that's why there's such a thing as the spiritual life, because only in the spiritual life, which all of you are living, only in the spiritual life can you start to achieve or be power. Be power. I don't know whether you can be powerful, because the word powerful suggests an interpretation of something added to the word and sounds a bit egotistical. I don't think anyone who has power is powerful. They just have power. So if we take the world, we see that there's electric power, but that's just a name for it, because it's really electric force, in that electrons come together and hit one another and that sort of thing, and then that produces a forceful effect at the end. So it's really force. And if I'm speaking now, then I'm using force. There might be power within me, but I have to use force. Power has to use force in existence, because existence consists of force. To be angry, of course, is force. To be self-doubtful or self-judging is force, because there's an activity, and that's forceful. And if you're going to have something forceful, you're going to have a reaction, because that's also what happens in the world. For every action, there's a reaction. But when we come to power, we will see there's no reaction in power. That's why power is not in this world, because it doesn't have reaction. And the spiritual life, as you all know, is about getting rid of my reactions, because all my reactions are forceful. And although my body must react, because my body is a force, although my body must react in its need or effort to survive, that's a natural reaction, which is a natural force. But when I get into my body with my feelings and create an egotistical force of what I want or I don't want, then I destroy the rightness of the body's reactions to survive. Even when the body reacts in an effort to survive, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a reaction. There is. When the body reacts to the need to survive, you get a reaction of shock inside, some way or other, or there's a reaction in someone else. So there's always a reaction where force is concerned, and force is this existence. And the spiritual life is to somehow or other be absent from existence while in existence. Now that's possible because we are all bodies. We are all animal bodies. And it's possible because we are not just animal bodies, but we are a thing, for want of a better word, called spirit. We don't know what spirit is, and spirit seems to suggest some movement. And of course, spirit never moves, because spirit is really power. So in the spiritual life, the less movement, the more power. Now, have you noticed that in your endeavors to be more spiritual? Have you noticed that you are endeavoring to be more still? That is, one example, when you go to be angry, you have learnt that this is ridiculous, that this is not right for me to be angry, so I give up the compulsion, the force of anger. I give it up. I give it up because I know it's forceful, and because I am endeavoring to be power, I must give up the force to have the power. Now, if I can give up my anger because I understand this, not by suppression, but because I understand that to be angry is forceful, and therefore that will have a reaction somewhere or other, in me or in the people around me. Because anger does that, doesn't it? It upsets others. Whereas if I am not angry, I can walk down the street or be with my children or anyone, and nobody is disturbed by my presence. So anger is forceful. And let's take an emotion such as depression. Now, depression can't be power because depression has movement in it. If I am depressed, I have a movement in me, and the result of that is the emanation of something to the people around me. You'll notice that when I am depressed, my face changes, and that's a psychic effect. Have you noticed that, how when you're depressed or angry or in any way emotional, that the face changes from the steady, normal psychic state of the face? It gets a twist in it of force, one way outward going as anger, which makes red-faced, let's say, or with depression, force going the other way. Probably a certain sallowness, a heaviness round the eyes, a blackness, as the force goes the other way. Both are movements of force, and they are not still. So they create reactions. Like depression, it creates a nasty impression in my body, a nasty reaction which I don't like, and the people around me don't like, because they can see by my countenance and also pick up psychically, because we are psychic creatures as well as physical, that there is a hole here. There is a hole in life, a depression in life here in this body. And that emanates as a force, a negative force, which I can pick up psychically. And so I might try to sympathize with the people or say what's wrong, or eventually I will absent myself from that person because they're negatively forceful. And I don't want to be with that because it's not still. And so it is again, in the spiritual life, I have to give up my depression. Because it's not still. And it's forceful. And it affects others as well as myself. And the spiritual life is not to make waves and affect others in a negative way. It is to be still, easy, here, now, without discontentment. Because discontent, are you discontented? Then there is a forceful leak in you. And it makes you think about all the things you want and can't have or haven't got. A discontent is a movement, a forceful movement. And is there anything worse than a discontented child? For goodness sake, there are many things worse, of course, but a discontented child is pretty bad because they always want something. And as soon as they get something, they want something else. And then they want something else. And you can see the movement. And you can see how upsetting that is for the parent and how upsetting it is for the child, because it gets into the habit of wanting, and that's the habit of discontent. And we are creatures of habit, creatures of force. And the spiritual life is just the opposite. So that means also that we have to give up wanting. Now, how do I give up wanting? Say the people. Because I want my breakfast, or I want to go to work, or I want to go to the pictures. How can I give up wanting? Well, you give up wanting, first of all, by not using the word any more than you utterly have to. You avoid using the word. That's how you start to give up these forceful habits. They are in the word. And that's what children do. I want this. Now the force is in the word. And the word's got to be changed to start eliminating the force behind the word. But while we use the word, we encourage the force. It's like swearing. While I swear, and of course men in the world swear all the time, not necessarily meaning anything, but just swear. Swearing's got a force in it. And when you hear it, you sort of crimp, don't you, when you hear it in public or anyone uses swear words, because it's forceful. And although men might use it, and women, they might use it in ordinary conversation where there's no apparent force, the fact that they have used the word means that they have encouraged the force in their own bodies. And so we must be aware or beware of forceful words. And if I'm talking to children, one of the things that I must get rid of in them is, for instance, I hate. As a child will often, or not often, I don't know how often they do it, but if children are moved to in playing or when they're disappointed, I hate them or I hate it. That word has got to be taken out of their vocabulary, because that means that's an energy of force. And while they use that word, that force will be in them. And they will be restless or they will be unhappy. And so the spiritual life in all of us is to get rid of our words of hate, our swearing words, as much as possible our forceful words, our anger, our discontent. Is that not so? Is that not what you're engaged in? Because if you're not engaged in that, then you are not being true to your spiritual life. Because stillness comes from being stiller and stiller. And stillness is the way to power.